Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Cripescast. This is the podcast where I talk to people for and or from the Midwest. I'm your host, Charlie Behrens, and we are brought to you by Jolly Good Soda. Hey, folks. How you doing? Welcome to a new episode of the Cripescast. Before we dive into things, just a couple notes off the top. First, if it sounds a little different, that's because I'm doing this Cripescast from the road. We had a lot of great shows down south, down south for being from up north, Kansas City, Springfield, Wichita, Evansville, a lot of fun. Thank you for coming out. We're going to be up in Rochester, Minnesota this week. So all those tickets are on charliebehrens.com or cripescast.com. You can just click on the thing. Before we dive into today's episode, which is an interview with my buddy Jeff Ditzenberger, it's his second time on the Cripescast. He was on the Farmers episode. I just want to give a plug for Doctors Without Borders. And I'm sure many of you have been watching the tragic news over the past couple of weeks. The violence in the Middle East, obviously, is nothing new. It's been going on for decades, but, the loss of civilian life over the past week has been nothing short of heartbreaking. And that civilian death toll may be exponentially higher in the next few days, depending on what happens in the Gaza Strip. And with all that said, it's easy to feel like you can't do anything. But one thing you can do is donate to Doctors Without Borders. They've got a great track record. We've worked with them for a while. We've linked them up in the show notes if you'd like to donate. Doctors Without Borders, for those of you who don't know, they're an organization that basically seeks to give humanitarian and healthcare aid around the world to places that need it most. Specifically on this situation, they've said, quote, they are actively working on preparing medical and humanitarian supplies to be sent to Gaza when access is open. And we are reiterating calls for the delivery of humanitarian aid into Gaza, including via the Rafah crossing. MSF calls for the urgent establishment of safe spaces and safe passage for civilians trapped in Gaza. The wounded and sick must receive medical care. Medical facilities and personnel must be protected and respected. Hospitals and ambulances are not targets. From Palestine and Israel to Sudan and Ukraine, civilians and hospitals should never be a target of war, end quote. And can't agree with that sentiment more. And it's a tough situation. So if you are looking for ways to do something productive with sort of whatever your feelings are, look to Doctors Without Borders. They are a great organization. Yeah, so check that out. Link for that in the show notes. Now turning to today's podcast, I am joined in this intro by Colleen Maraca in the Cripescast studio. How are you doing, Colleen?
I'm good. I'm feeling like large and in charge in the big seat.
I see how you're sitting in my seat there.
Squatters' rights. And as far as I'm concerned, finders, keepers, losers, weepers. So sound off in the comments if you think I should take over the Cripescast. Let me know.
So much respect that we have for our elders at Cripes Media.
Yeah.
Well, today we've got buddy Jeff, who came into the studio a couple weeks ago now, and we chit-chatted about a few other, there's a few other very important issues, and that is mental health, specifically as it pertains to farmers and to veterans. Jeff is both a farmer and a veteran. He knows how to speak both of those languages, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his story, a little bit about TUGS, the organization that he works with, that he started. And the short story on that is that Jeff when he served, he was in the Navy, he was on a boat, and anytime there was a big ship that couldn't get anywhere, you needed a tugboat. And it was, from that perspective, an invisible thing, but it got you moving where you need to go. So very cool, simple concept. We're going to get into what it is and, kind of the hardships that farmers have had as of late in this podcast. And it's going to be a very good conversation to have, especially for mental health awareness. And a lot of people can resonate with that. Jeff has a lot of great resources for people struggling with mental health, or perhaps know somebody who is struggling with mental health. So we're going to dive into that. And also it's just fun BSing with Jeff a little bit. He's become a good buddy over the years. Super cool dude. I think you're going to enjoy this conversation. Before we dive in, Colleen, any other things going on in the world of cripes that we should let the folks at home know about?
Well, so this weekend you're going to Rochester, Minnesota, which you already kind of taught on the top. And then after that, you got Manitowoc. And then after that, you got Burnsville in early November, Marshfield, Houghton, Michigan, Fish Creek, and Reedsburg. These are all up on the online. And then we have more dates coming in December. So if you want to see Charlie live, go there. Go to cripescast.com/tour.
Yeah. And also, before the Manitowoc show, I was talking to Ed the Diver, who was, if folks don't know, he was a Cripescast guest a few weeks ago. Funny guy.
Are you going to go diving?
I'm going to go diving with him. Yeah, we're going to go reclaim some lures, and see and clean up whatever body of the water, works. It's going to be cold though.
I was going to say.
I just got to get a thick enough wetsuit, but I think it'll be fun to do. I think it'll be a good time.
How was this last leg of the tour?
Last leg of the tour was great. I had a lot of fun with Dante and with Adam. Cruising around the deal, kind of the southern part of the Midwest, really getting the basement of the Midwest, but it's a finished basement, folks. It's very nice. There were pool tables. It's funny. We walked into this one bar in Evansville. Bar was completely empty and there was a $5 cover. And we were trying to figure out why. Not in a rude way. We're just like,
that's weird. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause there were all these pool tables. I was like, is the pool free? And then the guy got pissed. He was like, no, you got to put quarters in them. I was like, well, I'm just trying to figure out why there's a $5 cover. But
did they answer why it was a $5 cover?
No, I was at that point, I was feeling rude. So all my Midwest guilt went into play and I just paid for it. And we went in.
So you put in dollar quarters instead. You're just like, I'll give you $5 and then into the machine, I'll give you dollar quarters. I feel bad for even bringing it up. It was at the bar. Adam said that you guys got brought to a pretty scary bar. Was that it?
Yeah. It wasn't scary. The only thing that was scary was the cover.
Okay.
Yeah, I paid the cover. That's why I was scared. But I paid for everyone because I'm a nice guy.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah, $15. What can you do?
Yeah.
Don't say I never gave you anything.
Not me. Brew. I wasn't there. So, Adam.
No, I'm talking
okay,
to
I'll
Adam.
send that to Adam. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, cool. That sounds nice. And Vegas was fun.
Vegas was a great time. Leroy came up on stage. Our Craigslist kicker was a Liney's bottle that somebody was selling on Craigslist as a candle holder. So that was fun. But we ended up getting like 21 grand for Leroy's organization for that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. That's stuff.
Exciting.
Good stuff. And by the way, if people are interested, one last plug before we dive into this thing, we've got a lot of videos from our tour and all that up on patreon.com/Charlie Barons. If you want to see some life from the road and this, that, and the other thing, check it out. So anyways, without further ado, should we just dive into the conversation with Ditz?
Let's do it.
All right, let's get to my conversation with Jeff Ditzenberger. How's it going, Ditz?
It's going good, Charlie. How are you?
Good. Nice to have you back on the Cripescast.
This is really cool. This is like way cooler than the last place we did this.
Well, no, last place was on your farm. That was fun.
Yeah, but this is, I didn't even know if I was at the right place first. I had to call Colleen to make sure that I was actually.
Why? Because I haven't cut my grass?
Well, that too. But I mean, I get it if you're trying to be environmentally friendly or whatever. But I'm like, looks like a house. So. Yeah,
it is a house. I do have to cut the grass. That's not even environmentally friendly. That's not even low maintenance. That's just laziness at this point.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Plus, there was no reserve for Ditz parking, so I was a little disappointed.
Couldn't you just pull right in the drive?
I mean, I could have after I found out, but I was already past it, and I didn't want to get lost on all the one-way streets trying to get back over here.
You got the Milwaukee experience today.
Definitely.
Just to give people backstory. We met through Pam.
Fabulous Farm Babe.
Fabulous Farm Babe. And this was, I believe, I want to say like episode 11 or something. And we did the farmers.
17.
Better memory than me.
Okay, so I had a couple of people that asked me about it yesterday, and I had to.
You had to show them it.
Yeah, I mean, no, I remembered it because I have a brain like an elephant.
Yeah, that's good. I don't. But you were on there, and we had several other Wisconsin farmers.
Mm-hmm.
So, but let's, kind of for the folks who don't know you, who aren't aware, who aren't longtime OG Cripescast listeners, let's give them kind of the long story short of your work in the military and your work with mental health and farming, the brief synopsis, if you will, to catch everyone up.
Excellent. So as you can tell by my voice, I'm 23 years old. I've been farming for like 2 years.
You don't look a day over 24, dude.
But no, grew up in a small town in southern Wisconsin, South Wayne. About 430 people there, except for on the weekends, and there was 425. Grew up on a dairy farm. Went to high school there. Got out of high school. Went in the military because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Plus, there might have been an incident with my dad's truck that got me in a little bit of trouble. And then was in the military for 4 years, Operation Desert Storm. And in the Navy, I was on a big ship. I mean, a huge, second largest displacement ship next to an aircraft carrier, size of Camp Randall. For those of you that are in Wisconsin, gives you an idea how big it is. More people on that ship than was in my hometown. And then after I got out of the military, came back to Wisconsin, worked a couple of different ag-related jobs, got into actually agricultural sales, machinery sales for quite some time. But I've always had the farming part of my blood. I like to see crops grow, like to be out in tractors, having that huge machine at your fingertips and hands to, put seed in the ground blindly and have some faith and hope that, Mother Nature and the good Lord himself will come and give you some rain and stuff to nurture that and get it to grow. And then dairy farmed for a while with my now ex-wife, who I'm actually really good friends with. And it's kind of interesting because when you talk about my work with mental health, the way we met was after I had actually been trying to sell her family some equipment, farm equipment. And then I knew her and her husband were going to be taking over the farm eventually. So of course I was trying to get on their good side. Her husband died by suicide. And I heard about it through the news, went out there to help out as the middle of winter and stuff, and just kind of hung out there for 16 years. And then,
as it goes.
But I think it was, her name is Marie, and I think it was her husband's suicide that was probably one of those that kind of was a turning point for me that, okay, farmers as a whole aren't very well connected to, things that are going on in the big cities. I don't have access to healthcare and that kind of stuff. I was still selling machinery. There was a lot of times where the conversation in a barn or the conversation at a farmer's table would turn into, I just don't know if I can do this anymore. And I just got to the point, Charlie, where I was tired of burying friends for, reasons that could have been prevented. I always say, suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And so I had my own suicide attempt in 1994, actually committed a felony in the process of doing that. But I was less embarrassed of saying that I had screwed up and lit this old abandoned house on fire to try to end my life than I was of admitting that I had mental problems or emotional problems, because God forbid if men should talk about their feelings. And waited until 2014, wrote a blog about men and farmers and mental health for Wisconsin Farm Bureau Federation. They printed it. It went viral. Not like COVID viral, but viral. And anyways, ended up speaking at Madison-Dane County's Safe Communities Guys Night Out. And that's where the idea that night is actually where the idea for my nonprofit TUGS, which stands for Talking, Understanding, Growing, and Supporting. That's where that came from.
TUGS right here on the hat.
On the hat.
And so that's kind of the long. And what's the analogy of the tugboat? So
the ship that I was on, like I said, was the largest, second largest displacement ship next to an aircraft carrier, and we couldn't steer ourselves when it was, trying to come back into port or come home, or if you'd break down in the middle of the ocean, which does happen. You got to have some way to get back, and you can't call a tow truck, you call a tugboat. And you can't see the little tugboat, but you can hear his little tooty horn and little puffs of smoke. And the part that I found the most interesting was that when we would come back into port and they would push us back into dock, it would go super quiet. And we used to joke like it was so quiet you could hear the fish eat the barnacles off the outside of the hull. And then you feel this little bump and you know you're moving, but you're like, what's this magical force that's moving me? And then you feel another little bump. And then there was this magical box that had this voice come across it. It was like Land of the Oz. Actually, it was the captain. But anyways, who would say, hey, we're back. I'll paraphrase. Hey, we're back in port safe. For those of you that, don't have to work, go see your family. The rest of you, sorry, chow's at 6.
Right.
But the whole thing of it was, Charlie, is you just had this sense of calm and peace. And I was thinking about that when I was giving my speech that night in Madison. And I was like, holy cow, why can't life be like this? Like, what if you're a big ship out in the middle of the ocean and you can't go anywhere, or you need to get home safe, or you just need to find that safe place? What if you could call a tugboat? And so basically, on the way home that night, I said to my friend Scott, I go, dude, I want to start a nonprofit. And he's like, well, you already farm. And I was like, no, like I want to do something that has less government regulation. And oh my God, have you ever filled out the paperwork for a nonprofit? Like the government's got their whole nose into that one. They're like, oh, don't worry about that farmer over there. This guy's trying to start a nonprofit. But that's where TUGS came from, talking, understanding, growing, and supporting, because even big ships need little ships sometimes. And that's basically what the core behind my organization is that, we want to break down the stigmas around mental health. We want to, and I don't even like calling it mental health anymore. I like calling it mental wellness because it seems a little more positive. I mean, we all have our things going on mentally that, we don't necessarily want to talk about or whatever. And I want to get rid of that stigma where we can have an open, candid conversation about mental health, like all of the open, candid conversations we were having about COVID back in 2020, but I want us to actually get somewhere and accomplish something with that, and not have that anger towards each other or anything, and realize that, if you were and I were sitting here right now and either one of us had a cold or COVID or the flu or whatever, we know that we could, get that. We could, shake hands and end up, bringing that to ourselves. But I mean, you and I have shook hands and given ourselves each other a man hug 15, 20 times, and you're never going to catch my PTSD. You're never going to catch my bipolarism. You're never going to catch my anxiety. Why is it though that, like, you could run into somebody in the store, almost a complete stranger, and, they say, oh, I've been fighting a cold for 3 weeks. And I'm like, I have a cure for that. But by the way, here's a hug, and not even think twice about it. But somebody says, oh, I've got post-traumatic stress, or I've got anxiety, or I've got bipolarism. You're like, oh, dude, don't touch me. I don't want that crap. Yeah. So and it's one of those, that's one of those misconceptions out there. It's a
stigma.
It's a very bad stigma. Yes.
And where that comes from, who even knows? It doesn't really matter where it comes from. But the point is that, you have these resources consistently available and, are continuing to fund, this kind of situation. And your background as a farmer and as a veteran, you have those are two populations that, statistically have a problem, or have, I don't know the proper way to say it, but there's a lot of suicide in both of those categories.
So the highest risk suicides right now, if you look at the top 10, farmers, veterans, believe it or not, the number one right now is veterinarians. And I did and we'll talk about that here a little bit, but let's think about it. Veterinarians are also involved with the farming community.
Sure.
And of course, men, because men don't want to talk about
we just like to push it deep down, and we just like to,
drown it in some ranch and call it a day.
Yeah. Speaking of ranch, before we get to that, you brought in a little pickle ranch.
Dude, that stuff
I've never
so
tried
good.
this.
It is so good.
Should I try just a little right now before we, just a break, just to some heavy issues here, why not have a little ranch? Yeah.
Is that's not really good?
I'll tell you this much. I like doing pickle beer. I like putting a little pickle juice, a little pickle in the beer.
Yep.
Comes from the Bloody Mary, I think.
Yep.
That's some good stuff right there.
Yeah, it is.
You want to squirt?
No, I've already had some.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks for the gift, man. That's very nice.
Not
a sponsor, but a little pickle ranch here.
I'd recommend everybody try it. If you're having a bad day, this will help.
That set the dopamine levels spiking right there.
There you go. Yep.
That's an official sponsor of TUGS.
So, man. But no, back to the matter at hand. The challenge with the demographic that we have is that one, men push it, like you said, men will push down their feelings. I mean, God, you can't say the F word. And it's interesting. Like when I give my speeches, you could have 200 guys and 20 women, and you'll say, guys, say the word feelings. And it's like, feelings. Yeah. And you say, women, say the word feelings. And it's like, oh my God, they blow the freaking roof off the place, Right. And that's not a crack towards women. They just they get it. Like it's a natural part of, but we grew up, it was cool. The other night, you said it in your show, and I was listening to it, and I kind of want to use it. I always say, how many of us in the audience have heard the thing, quit crying or I'll give you something to cry about. And you talked about your generational difference between your brothers and sisters and you and whatnot. And how, the newer generation's like, it's okay to cry about it. And the older generation's like, I'll give you something to cry about. Yeah. And the thing of it is like, okay, my cat just died or my dog just died or I just fell and stubbed my toe and broke my chin open, but okay, I'll try to suppress that down. And we created a society of guys and veterans and stuff that, to be viewed as stoic and strong and not vulnerable and stuff. You just gotta, you got to put on that strong man's face. You got to put on that, oh, I've got this, I don't have to talk about any of my stuff. Veterans are the same way. And the thing of it is, I got my brother who served 11 years, was over in Fallujah twice. He's now just kind of started to open up about some of his stuff and some of the things that he tells me. And people will say to some veterans, well, you weren't boots on the ground. Like myself, I wasn't boots on the ground, but I watched the Scuds getting blown out of the sky. And I was also on a ship that carried, half of that ship was full of diesel fuel. The other half was full of jet fuel. The rest of it had ammunition on it. And whenever we were out in battle formation, we were like 30 miles away from anything that could protect us. Mm-hmm. Because if they hit us and blew us up, there was going to be 20 miles worth of hole, then another 5 miles worth of repercussions, and then another, 5 miles of aftershocks after that part of it. You look at what farmers go through on a regular basis. When you look at the farming community, one, they're busy all the time. Like it's not like they can just call in sick and say, hey, I'm going to go take a mental health day. A lot of them don't have insurance because they're not good insurance plans for farmers out there. So they're like, well, I'm not going to go. I mean, you can't hardly get them to go in if the hand's infected and about ready to fall off. And they're like, well, give it another week. I'll throw a little more of peroxide on it and see if that doesn't take care. Wrap it up in some duct tape, but I got stuff to do. So I'm going to go out and do that. So you can't get them off of the farm for that side of it. And the other thing is that look at what they go through. Like, let's take this last year, for instance. I said earlier about putting the seed in the ground with blind faith. Farmers are investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in seed and fertilizer and machinery and stuff to grow a crop so that they can feed all of us. And they're putting it on the ground with no idea what their return is going to be at the end. And you get a year like this where it's been dry a lot. We didn't get a lot of rain. We've kind of hit some drought areas and stuff like that. Guys are starting to take the crop out now, and they're like, oh, this is nothing like what we need it to be in order to break even. And then, excuse me, you've got the milk price. Milk price dropped again. And I've never seen an industry whose prices will fluctuate as much as what, the milk, corn, and soybean price does. And the thing of it is that when it fluctuates for the farmer, it doesn't fluctuate for people in town, because we have figured out a way to absorb it. Maybe we don't go to a Brewers game on a Saturday night because we got to buy some more groceries or whatever. So you figure out a way to do that. Farmers can't go to their local co-op or whatever and say, hey, I want another $3 a bushel for my corn because I'm not making ends meet. And so you've got that stress on it. And then the money starts coming in and you're looking, okay, I got to pay this, but I also need to pay this. Like, where am I going to get that money to pay this? Because I don't have enough on that side of it. So it's this constant vicious cycle. And who do farmers talk to? Other farmers. Yeah, and they're going through the same thing. Yeah. It's even if they're married or if they're in a partnership with their brothers or dad or grandpa or sister or whoever the case may be, when they sit at that business table, Charlie, and they say, hey, Bill, there's not enough money to pay the feed bill this month. Yeah, no kidding. I know that because I balance a checkbook. So they don't have any of that separation from it. And that's one of the things that one of the core values of my group is to find someone that they can talk to that understands their language. Because let's be honest, veterans speak a different language. Farmers speak a different language. You know, if a farmer came into middle of Milwaukee and said, I need, $9 per bushel for an ROI on my soybeans, but right now, fuel is this and my milk price is $13 a hundredweight, and, throwing all of these terms that we know that he just said, I need $9 a bushel, which for every bushel they take out of the field, they get $9 for to get an ROI, which is a return on investment, which, in hundredweight for milk, for every 100 pounds of milk that goes out, they're getting $13 for that. The farmer 30 years ago was getting 19 cents of every dollar spent on agricultural product. They're still getting 19 cents of every dollar spent on an agricultural product. Exponentially, though, fuel, price of equipment, price of seed, price of repairs, all that kind of stuff has risen astronomically. And that's why we're in the position that we are, where, a lot of people say, oh, those farmers got those great big piece of equipment and they got this and they get subsidies from the government and all this other stuff. That's kind of in my opinion, it's kind of a cloak and dagger type, or cloak and mirror, smoke and mirror type thing to be, well, that's to make it look good so that the consumer feels better about going to the grocery store and having to spend $4 for a loaf of bread.
So, it's almost like, you, in some cases, I'm not saying all cases, but like you get into an Uber or something and you're talking to the Uber driver and they're saying that they bought the car from Uber. It's a new car. They got it from Uber, but they got to like pay it off basically, so it's kind of that same thing where like, yeah, money is being generated, but the profit there's not a lot of profit and there's a lot of overhead and there's a lot of stress. If something goes wrong, the bank could take that equipment back just as easily.
Yep.
And so dealing with that on a fairly consistent basis, and that has just, do you see that coming down? Do you see a brighter future for farming?
Well, we've had a couple of good years, and one of the things that I actually liked about COVID was that, we got back in touch with the American farmer. People were buying their meat directly from the farmer. They were, calling and saying, hey, I'll buy a half a steer from you. And, as soon as it got processed, they were buying, they knew where their food was coming from. And they were getting eggs from, the local person that has chickens and, and getting hog or pork and bacon from, the farmer and stuff like that. And there was all of a sudden, it was like being back in the 70s again, where you actually had neighbors helping neighbors type thing. And then all of a sudden right back to kind of, well, I can go to the grocery store. It's a lot more convenient. I don't have to buy, 500 pounds, et cetera, et cetera. So we keep losing that. And with the ebbs and flows that go with agriculture, it's kind of the same thing with the attitude too, because, you're looking at it and you're thinking, it's like, say you're getting, and I don't know what you make, Charlie, and I don't care, but say you get $100,000 in a year for doing 20 shows and whatever. And the next year things are a little bit tough and you have to do 30 shows and you still don't quite get to that 100,000. And that's what you need to, because that's what you were expecting. That's what the farmers are going through on a regular basis. Plus with all the uncertainty of what the weather and that kind of stuff is going to bring on top of it too. Where they don't have that outlet. And what kind of outlets do we turn to? We turn to alcohol, or we turn to drugs, or we turn to, I hate to say it, we turn to suicide, and those mental things that are pushing down on us, and the fact that we can't set our own prices, or the fact that we just can't get out of that funk and realize that, yeah, we're in another ebb, but it's going to get better. There might have to be some decisions that are made that, maybe we don't buy that new tractor this year, even though it's what we should do. We'll buy a slightly used one, save some money there, and hope that's going to bring, that circle back around again and stuff too. But you look at it from a 15, 16-year-old kid in FFA right now, looking at grandpa and dad and going, man, it's a lot of hard work. You guys don't really make a lot of money, Now they're looking at, well, if I leave the farm and go get a regular job, is that gonna be the detriment to me? Am I gonna get kicked out of the family because now I'm not taking on that tradition on top of it too? So there's so many layers to this that, honestly, Charlie, we could spend a whole week sitting in these two awesomely green chairs, by the way, and talking about this, because there's so many different multifaceted layers that go along with this.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll scratch a few surfaces today and kind of see what we come up with. Cause there's sort of, cause one thing that we were talking about, we had a podcast a few weeks ago with like, corn. Well, it was about phosphorus basically, and where that comes from, and sort of fertilizers being used and people on all ends of the human spectrum are responsible for phosphorus in the water, because whether you grow food or you purchase food, you are responsible for it. And we had a conversation about that, kind of farmers are already taking on so much. And this is kind of the backdrop of now you're coming down on farmers more for increased phosphorus. Yet at the same time, we need clean water, and we got to do that. I kind of wonder if, maybe the government is subsidizing maybe not the preferred thing for us as a society. And I'm not even saying what it would, the government subsidizes various products. Do you think the government is subsidizing the right products?
Well, yes, to a point, especially. So if you look at the food bill for America, statistically has been that you make enough disposable income by like the second, third week of February to buy your groceries for a year. Now, I haven't checked that. That was 3 years ago, before food prices started to go up. Most other countries, it's 6 months before you make enough disposable income to buy your food. One of the things that I don't think people realize is that the subsidies on corn and soybeans and food, or the subsidies that the farmers get, which is less than 1% of a penny out of our taxpayer dollar, is going to subsidize that, which keeps food prices low. What does that do? One, makes it easier for people to afford groceries. Now, I know there's going to be some people out there saying, you're full of crap because my food bill is ridiculous. Sure, if you're going out to eat every night, sure is. Grocery store, still not terribly bad if you look at other countries across the world. The other thing that concerns me, is, every election cycle that comes around, there's this thing called the Farm Bill. And everybody thinks that this is all about the quote unquote free money that farmers get. It's not free money, first of all. The money that the farmer gets for subsidies, they're going to reinvest in their business. And they're going to do it multiple ways. They're going to find new processes to make sure that they're more efficient, to make sure that they're more green, to make sure that they're more environmentally friendly. Farmers have more regulations than what I think people really understand when it comes to, and think about it, you've been talking clean water for a couple of weeks now, and I've heard that buzzword come back around. We have animals to water. We have animals to make sure that they drink. We drink the water. We're sure as heck not just going to go out there and, purposely cause any kind of issues. We're going to try to find other ways that we can make sure that the water that we drink is also safe enough for our neighbors to drink, and so on and so forth. But the thing that irritates me about the Farm Bill is that the Farm Bill, when you look at it as a whole, there's like less than 10% of that actually goes to farmers. Then there's a small percentage that goes to fish and forestry. And the rest of it goes to food stamps, WIC, and the other programs to help those less fortunate. But they put it under this thing and call it the Farm Bill, and everybody thinks that the farmers are getting all this, this money that's just handed to them, like a magical check that they don't have to pay back. And that's not exactly how it works. And the thing of it is, if we didn't have the subsidies, food would be ridiculously expensive. You'd have more people going hungry than what we already do. And at the end of the day, I don't know that people would be as cautious. And when I say that, I mean farmers and people who are producing the food, and the truckers that get it to the factory and all that kind of stuff. The regulations that there's a reason why we have the safest food in the world, is because of the regulations that go behind it, but that comes with a cost. And if you're and where do you do it? Do you do it out of a very small percentage of every taxpayer dollar? Or do you say, nope, screw it, you figure it out on your own, and then you start having people set their own prices? And if Charlie Barron's wants to sell his milk for $100 a gallon, and there's nobody else that sells milk, Charlie's going to get 100 with no regulation, no government control, no nothing over the top of that. Now you've just taken the food safety part of it away too on top of it.
Folks, excuse the interruption, but are you looking for a nice soda to put in people's bags this trick or treat? Be the cool house. Be the house that gives out full sodas. Everybody remembers when you were trick or treating, that house that gave out full candy bars and full sodas.
Yeah.
Those were the houses you didn't TP. You know,
and the
out
ones
of
you did
respect.
were apples and raisins.
Exactly. Yeah. Don't bring that health food anywhere around. Give the trick or treaters something they want this Halloween. Give them a Jolly Good soda. Jolly Good soda is a treat. An apple is a trick. I'll tell you that. Actually, I'm going to be honest with you. Apples are really good. Okay. I just had a really good apple the other day.
What kind?
It was, I don't know. It came from Apple Fest. Maybe I talked about it during Apple Fest, but I got a bag of them. Oh my God, they're so good. Anyways, that's yeah, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I just made apple crisp this last weekend with apples that I picked from an orchard, and it was really good.
Oh, that's so fall of you.
I know.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, good for you.
I'll make some for this week for the team when you guys get back, or when you get back, and we can have apple crisp for everyone. I also have chili for everyone too. So.
Oh, that'd be great. Well, this ad break turned into kind of a little off track. Either way, Colleen and I are old. Maybe we can get bought with some apples. Sorry, Colleen. Welcome to the club.
I'm 25. No way. Absolutely not.
I just want more members in the old club. Anyway, for the young whippersnappers out there, they're looking for that Jolly Good soda in their pillowcase. Pop it in there, folks. Jolly Good soda. Go to jollygoodsoda.com. Order it offline. Or if you're in Wisconsin, go to any grocery store. It should be there. And finally, folks, I should say, because this isn't our last one, we got Fleet Farm. The weather is starting to cool down here in the Midwest, which makes it a perfect time to shop Fleet Farm's selection of fall workwear. I can read. They've got top brands like Carhartt, Dickies, Milwaukee, and DeWalt. Pick up durable jackets, sweatshirts, pants, bibs, boots that are going to last you throughout the season. They're going to keep you protected, and they're going to keep you warm. They're going to keep you dry. Check it all out. Best workwear for every job over at the Fleet Farm. And folks, as you know, it is October. It is the best time of the year. And along with our Oak Beanie being a free purchase, once you spend $100 or more, you get a free Oak Beanie. We got loads of great Midwest merch, including the I Survived the Midwest Goodbye t-shirt. Tell your folks I says hi merch. Hoodies, crew necks, koozies, cards, games, mugs, glasses. The Midwest Survival Guide is up there. Check it all out. Cripescast.com. Just click on the merch section. And with that, let's get back to my conversation with Jeff Ditzenberger.
Hemp came back to Wisconsin. We used to be the #1 hemp growing state back during the war.
What's up, Wisconsin?
What's up, Wisconsin? Can't get the other hemp approved, but we got that hemp approved.
Oh yeah, we'll talk to the Tavern League.
Exactly. But the whole thing of it is you had multiple products that came out of that. There was a feed source for animals. There, you can make rope out of it. Why did we quit growing hemp after the war? Well, the textile companies came in and said, "Oh no, we've got synthetics. We can do that." It was
actually the first law on the books, if I remember this correctly, in the United States about growing hemp was that every household had to grow one for ropes for shipping. And then I believe it was the lumber industry that started ginning up a lot of the stuff about weed being an intoxicant, the whole reefer madness thing, because it was a lobbying effort. And you're right. There's so many it's so annoying because everybody's patting people's pockets to come up with studies that they want to do. And then it leaves, the average people like myself going, oh, what the not only can you not believe stuff, you just get lost in it and people throw up their hands and they give up. And then who wins? The people with the most money to lobby,
Yep. Well, it's kind of the same with our government right now, and we're kind of getting off a little bit on a tangent here, and I'm fine with that. But, it's like the far left has got bombs and missiles and grenades and stuff. And the far right has the same thing.
Right.
And they're throwing them at each other, lobbing them back and forth and creating all this noise and chaos. And all of us common folk, as I like to refer to us down here, who are working our butts off, trying to come up with ideas, trying to come up with better solutions, trying to make our communities and our lives richer for our children and the next generations have got pitchforks and shovels.
Right.
And they're creating all this noise and we're screaming, but they still can't hear us because of, the smokes and daggers and smokes and what is that? Is it smoke and daggers? Is that how what was it? Smoke and mirrors. There's
smoke and mirrors. There
I got
it
the
is.
ER part right on the second part. We're good. But I mean, it's that whole thing. And it's kind of like, and I'll bring it right back to mental health too. It's just the number of kids that are suffering right now with anxiety, and they're like, I don't want to go to school because of my anxiety, and parents and people and even people in the schools that are saying, oh, you're just making that up. It's all in your head. Mm-hmm. That's like throwing somebody in a lake and telling them that as they're drowning, oh no, it's just in your chest. It's just,
it's sad, but it's true.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and, you are, I was right there with you mentally, bringing right back to mental health, because you kind of have this sort of with our government, and this relates very much to farming. With the government, you have two sides sort of financially incentivized to push what financially incentivized is not what's right. And you have us as a society going after what's financially benefiting a few people. And so then that makes the average person kind of say, oh, what the hell is it all for anyway?
Exactly. Exactly.
Now to bring it back, now that we've kind of touched on the environment, so many different things. How does TUGS help folks? How can they use TUGS to their advantage?
I just, now that you said about the environment, I gotta mention this because, I can remember a number of times back when I was first struggling, even before my suicide attempt, the number of people like, oh, you should go outside and take a walk, or you should go take a run. Mm-hmm. Do I look like I run? Thank you for making me do something that I don't like to do. And I tell people all the time, if you see me running, catch up, because I'm running for a reason. Like, it's not just because I'm like, oh, I want to win $20 at the end of a race and a ribbon and whatever. Nothing against the people that run, because I think it's great. And I'm actually trying to get a little bit better into shape. I realize round is a shape, not the shape I want to be. but so there's multiple things that we're trying to do from a standpoint from TUGS. One of the things that we were super instrumental in is, we did a lot of lobbying to get the National Suicide Hotline changed from a regular 800 number to simply 988.
Yeah.
And that was huge for us. Because now you can tell people, hey, all you got to do is dial 988, or you can just, text 988. And if you're a veteran, by the way, if you're a veteran listening to this, if you do need 988, by all means, please call it. But press number 1 after they answer, because that'll get you to someone who's, a veteran specialist who speaks our language, who understands, some of the different challenges that veterans have. My thing is, you said it just a little bit ago, Charlie, and it's kind of rung with me, is that, not having the resources or not having the resources. Here's one of the challenges that has still been going on. You and I talked about it at our first podcast, number 17, Cripescast, in 2020, basically in the height of COVID, with our little fake cow in between us that we found out later was a bull, actually. So I remember the gourd. I remember all of it. Like, just a flood of emotions. But the thing of it is that, so when 988 was implemented, Wisconsin was the number 1 calling state for quite some time.
Oh, wow.
Put that into perspective. 2, I said during COVID, and I said it on the podcast, and there was actually people that reached out to me and told me I was full of crap. And I said, it's not because of that I'm full of crap. There's other reasons. But I said that, the pandemic that we're facing with COVID right now is nothing compared to the pandemic that we're going to be facing with mental health. And I hit it on the head. Mm-hmm. National Suicide Hotline calls went up, 200, 300, 400%. To call a therapist right now, or a psychiatrist or psychologist to get in, excuse me, basically you're waiting 3-4 months to get in to see somebody. Yeah. If you're doing Better Therapy, which is a great online therapy, I highly recommend them. Same thing. You're not getting, and what we're finding though, myself is since I'm a peer specialist and a mental health coach, I don't do counseling. I don't do therapy or that kind of, I'm kind of like a liaison guy. But one of the things that I've noticed is that a lot of people who are in let's call it a situation, for lack of a better term, don't necessarily need to talk to a therapist or a psychiatrist or a psychologist. They just need to talk to somebody who actually cares. You know, how many phone conversations have we had since 2020, Charlie, where we've just talked to each other just to say, hey, how's it going?
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. We forgot that. You know, I get up when I do my presentations, I love doing my presentations to college kids, especially because one of the things that I do is that I have them at the beginning of the presentation, I have them text 3 people, one of their parents, a sibling if they have one, a best friend, or if they don't have a sibling, or if they don't have a sibling, then someone that they haven't texted in a while, and just send them a text. Hey, you're awesome. I hope you have a great day. Talk to you soon. And I'll have the college kids, especially, I have them leave their phones out because moms will call me like, what did you do? You know, or how much money is this going to cost me this time or whatever, you know? But I expound on that and expand on that and go, hey, you know what? You can actually take that same device and you can punch out a whole bunch of numbers like 608-555-1212, and then you can push a little button and then somebody can actually answer on the other end and you can have an actual conversation. And we've lost that. And the reason that that is so important, I know there's people out there right now like, oh my God, I don't want to talk to my parents. They're so weird. You know what, kids, we don't talk to you. No, I'm just kidding. But the thing of it is, it's like, if I send you a text, Charlie, and I say, hey, Charlie, how you doing? And you reply simply, okay. How did you send that? Were you like, okay, or okay, or okay?
Yeah.
Now, if I call you and say, hey, Charlie, what's going on? Like, dude, I'm okay.
Then you know.
Charlie, what's going on? Let's talk. You know, and that is so, you know, I will constantly, you know, one of the things that I tell people all the time is that words have impact. And I don't remember in 2020 if I told the Quick Trip cat guy story. Did I tell you that? Did I tell that story?
Oh, geez. Well, tell it again.
So it's one of my favorite things. First of all, we all know Quick Trip. If you can't, the only thing you probably can't find there is
you did tell it, but tell it again.
So I was in Quick Trip one day, and you know how it is in the Midwest, or especially in areas around here. You know, you walk into Quick Trip or any other local establishment, you're like, hey, how's it going? How's it going? How's it going? Everybody's like, living the dream, great, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, I'm in Quick Trip one day in Monroe, and I says this guy, I was getting my kombucha, and because I'm trying to get healthy. And anyway, so I opened the door and like, hey, how's it going? He's like, what do you care? And I'm like, well, I asked you.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, but do you really care? And I'm like, even more now.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, he goes, if you really want to know, he says, I think my cat's dying. And I'm like, why do you think your cat's dying? Oh, she makes this god awful sound when I feed her and water her. And he's like, it's like, and I'm like, oh, I know that sound. Your cat's got a hairball. And he's like, what are you, a veterinarian? And I'm like, no, but I've had a lot of cats. And he goes, what do I do? What do I do? And I said, it's simple. Go to Walgreens or Fleet Farm. Oh, don't let Parker hear that either, since he's a manager at Farm and Fleet. Go to one of, Walmart or Walgreens or whatever. And I said, you can get this cat hairball remedy. I will warn you, it's the most disgusting thing you're ever going to see or hear in your life. If she doesn't get better in a couple days, then please call your local veterinarian. All right, cool. Thanks. Parted ways. 6 weeks goes by. I'm back in Quick Trip, getting glazers that apparently come in a 6-pack, not a 5-pack, Charlie.
You know, it's
whatever. Whatever.
I stole one.
It's your
Give
story. Okay.
Give me a break.
Wait, did you just say you stole one?
No, did I say that?
I'm pretty sure we're going to have to go back
No.
Yes, can we get that soundbite?
Can we edit that
out? So anyways, I'm just about ready to pay for my stuff, and this hand slams down next to me, and I hear this voice go, I'm going to pay for this man's meal. And I turn around and here it's Cat Guy. I still to this day don't know what this guy's name is. And he goes, do you remember me? And I'm like, yeah, you're the guy with Cat. Yeah, we need to talk outside. And all I could think of at that point was like, is this like a last meal? And do they have security? Do they have security cameras outside? You know, what's my safe word to tell the Quick Trip employees? Anyways, so
we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Yeah. So tell your folks I'm not good. Anyway, so we go outside and he goes, you were right. He says, my cat had a hairball. And he says, you were right about something else. That is absolutely the grossest thing I have ever witnessed in my life. And of course, we kind of laughed about it. And I was like, hey, that's great. I'm glad to hear that everything turned out fine. He said, no, we're not done. And I said, okay. He says, what you don't know, he says, is I just moved here from the East Coast. He says, and the day I showed up for my new job, they had cut that position and never told me. And I said, okay. And he said, well, I don't know any friends in this tank town. And I'm like, hold on a second. You're at a Quick Trip. Like, we're not a tank town. We're progressive, you know? And he goes, I was hoping to make friends through work and so on and so forth. And he says, and I told myself that very day that I met you, when I left my apartment, if my cat died, I was going to die with my cat.
Oh my gosh.
And I think about it, like, how many people do we talk to on a regular basis? How many people do we stand behind at a store who's taking a little bit long to get their money out because they're older, because maybe they've got something going on, or maybe because they're having a rough day, and we're back there and we're like, oh, for crying out loud, why don't you just go through self-checkout or something like that? When all we'd have to do is just take a little step back and be like, hey, hope your day goes better than you get in your, is there anything I can help with? Or, something like that. And the other thing that we have to also be prepared for, though, is that if we're asking people how they are, we can't always expect them to say that they're living the dream. Mm-hmm. And I tell people all the time, I would much rather spend an hour or whatever it takes listening to all the things that you've got going on that are causing you angst than to sit and listen to your eulogy for 5 minutes. Mm. And I think as a society, we have gotten so wrapped up. I mean, I thought, honestly, the one good thing that would come out of COVID was that we would all be kind and we would all help each other out and we would all try to get on some common ground and
Well, that was wishful thinking,
dude, you put a lot of wishy in one hand and a lot of crap in the other, and you rub them together, get nothing but wishy crap. Yeah. And we've lost that whole thing, and it's interesting. So years ago when we first started texting, I used to send out 10 texts a day, random texts to random people. Yep. That was back when you would punch the number and you'd be like ABC. That's ABC. And then you're like, I should just call this person. But you can't call 10 people at a time. So anyways, I would type out something like, hey, you're awesome. I hope you have a great day. Or you're beautiful. Or, you matter, or something like that. And I would send it out. And I kept getting back, wow, thank you. Or I needed to hear that. Well, Snapchat comes out. And I know a bunch of you are probably thinking right now, what's a 53-year-old grandfather of 3 1/4? I have one on the way that I'm pretty excited about.
Congrats, by the way.
Found that out the night of your show, actually.
Congratulations.
Yep. Father of 2 and 2 bonus kids. What are you doing with Snapchat? First of all, my daughter was drop dead gorgeous, still is. And I don't like boys. And I did find out 2 years ago that she had 2 Snapchat accounts. There was the dad Snapchat account. And then there was the not dad Snapchat account. But anyways, the thing with Snapchat was you can do a video or you can, find some inspirational saying on Facebook or whatever. And so I started doing that and sending them out to people. And it got to be where I would do 10 and then I would add 5 more. And then I did 15 and I'd add 5 more. Today, I sent it out to 395 people.
It's like your own mailing list.
It is. And what's interesting is I always throw some random people in there. There's people now that are like, if I don't do it for a week, they're like, dude, are you dead? But I think about that. And the response rate back, Charlie, is probably about 75% of people that'll say things like, I needed to hear that. Or how did you know I needed to hear that today? Or I know someone else that needs to hear that. Can I save that and send it? It's on a social media platform. You do whatever you want, but you have a huge following, Charlie, huge following. What if every one of your people that's listening to this Cripescast, plus your staff, were to all send out 10 text messages at the end of this podcast to 10 different people? Think of the lives that are touched with that. Mm-hmm. Think of the moms that'll be calling their kids and be like, what'd you do?
I'm beautiful.
Yeah. Exactly. The husbands are another good one too, especially when I do in front of farmers, because their wives will call me like, you bought a tractor, didn't you? But my point is that, we've gotten so social media focused that we live social media lives. Why not use that for something just a little bit better?
Right.
And I talked about the 2 Snapchats, and there's a reason that I mentioned that. I deal with a lot of kids. To hear 9, 10, 11-year-olds that want to end their lives, and you think, what the hell could possibly be going on with a 9, 10, or 11-year-old? When I was in high school, and I got picked on because I was small, I had a mile ride on the bus, and then all the school picking on me stopped. Mm-hmm. What happens nowadays? Kids get on their little smartphones, they make up fake profiles, they do all this other stuff, and they continue to bully those people. And adults will say like, oh, we need to stop this. Kids, I'm like, look at yourselves, first of all.
No, we should really stop this, as they go by their own.
Yeah, you're the same ones that were screaming at people because they didn't wear a mask, or they did wear a mask, or they got the vaccine, or they didn't get the vaccine. Like, oh my God, do you take a look in the mirror? Sit down and talk with your kids. I don't know if you don't know what a chair is. Charlie and I are sitting in them, and there's things that have been around forever. And then there's a little table. Put the phones away and have a conversation with your kids. And you know what? The other side of it is maybe look at your kids' phones. See what they're doing. You're paying for them.
Right.
Maybe your child is one of those who's thinking about ending their life. Maybe your child is one of those who's bullying someone else to the point that, and nobody wants to admit that their kid could potentially be a bully, but it's possible. I mean, it's just, people are like, well, what? Can't talk about that. Hey, I don't like to talk about being an alcoholic, but I do because I know somebody needs to hear that message. I don't like to talk about the fact that I tried to end my life, but I need to do that because people need to hear that message.
Right.
I don't like to talk about how when I was first married I've been married 3 times. When I was married to the mother of my children, I don't like to talk about how I was such a jackass to my stepkid, but I made steps to improve that. And that's the one thing, a lot of times too, one of the things that frustrates me is people will say, oh, they're just talking about their anxiety or their stuff or their addiction or whatever because they want attention. Dude, if I wanted attention, I got better ways to do it.
Right.
I'm talking about my addiction. My friends are talking about their addiction. We're talking about how hard it is to get to where we need to get to, but we got there and we want other people to join us in that. Plus, we also want other people to be like, oh, I get it now. So when my friend says, yes, we'll go to the bar with you, but I'm not drinking, we will buy him soda all night long. And not say, oh, come on, you can just have one drink.
Right.
Oh, come on. There's so many layers that we could fix. And what does that do? Oh, gee, I don't know, maybe take some of the pressure off of the mental health system that is so overworked and overwhelmed right now. And again, TUGS. Even big ships need little ships sometimes. Dude, there are days where I just need to talk to my friend Scott. And I'll give you an instance. When we first started TUGS, I sent him a text message one day and I'm like, I hate my lunch. He calls me up right away. What's going on? My lunch sucks. He goes, what are you having? I go, leftovers. He goes, dude, you love leftovers. I'm like, yeah, but it's leftovers 2 days in a row. And he's like, who makes your lunch? I'm like, my wife does. He's like, make your own damn lunch. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not what I wanted to hear. I wanted him to say, oh yeah, your wife's worthless. Can't believe she would subject you to that. No, that's not what I needed to hear. What I needed to hear was, hey, dummy, take some own accountability, do it yourself. However, when the guy that I farmed with ended up getting his first bout of brain cancer and he was on his way to the hospital and we didn't know if he was going to make it, I'm on the other end. I called Scott and all I did was sob on the other end of the phone. And all I heard is on this other voice was Scott saying, I'm here, brother. I'm here. For as long as you need me, I'm here. And that is the kind of things that we need to do. And I, honest to God, Charlie, and maybe I live in a fantasy land, mamby-pamby, freaking glass house, I don't know. But I think at the end of the day, if we all just start to help each other out again, if you don't want to talk to somebody, send them a text message for crying out loud and just be like, hey, I hope you're having a good day. Mm-hmm. Or, hey, if you're ever in a bad situation, I would hope that you would reach out to me. And there's the other stigma out there that we fight all the time. Well, if I talk to somebody who's suicidal about suicide, they're going to be more likely to die by suicide. No, they're not. That's like a doctor's telling somebody, well, I'd like to talk to you about the cancer you have, but I don't want to talk to you about it because it's going to make you feel bad because you have cancer. Right. Let's do something to fix it. I will guarantee you with whatever money is in my bank right now, if somebody would have, which isn't a lot, but I mean, it sounded cool when it actually sounded better in my head. But anyway, I would bet almost anything valuable to me that if someone, when I was going through my 6 weeks of planning before my suicide attempt, if one person would have just said, hey, what's going on with you? We probably wouldn't be having this conversation.
So it's those simple things.
It's very simple.
Those simple things. And, you see it, you have a sense of it, but a lot of times it's easier to just do nothing. And in your opinion, and in your experience, it's just simple communication, a phone call, a text if you can't do that, and just doing something for somebody else.
I talked about that, and somebody asked the question here at one of my presentations not too long ago. They said, well, what if I don't have the time right then? I said, then make an appointment. He's like, what? And this is one of the things that we teach in QPR, which is question, persuade, and refer, which is basically CPR for mental health. I'm an instructor. It's a great little program. It kind of helps you how to help someone who's having a mental health crisis. I said, make an appointment. He's like, what good's that going to do? I said, it's no different when you go to the doctor. If it's not an emergency or they can't get to you right away, put you in a waiting room, but you're still there.
Right.
And then they're going to come back to it. So you tell that person, hey, I know you're going through some stuff right now, and I really want to be there for you. I've got a meeting I got to be at in 10 minutes, but I promise you I will call you back at 12:30 and we will sit down and we'll have a conversation, or we'll get together at 1 o'clock or whatever the case may be. And we'll sit and we'll talk about what's going on with you. And I will guarantee you 9 times out of 10, that is going to be sufficient, because now you've just told them that you care enough that you're going to take time out of your day. And people understand that there's things that come up. They understand that this is kind of brought up or whatever. The other flip side of that is they're like, oh, I really need to talk to somebody right now. Give me your phone. Take their phone. Say, I'm dialing the National Suicide Hotline. These are not people that are going to come grab you and put you in a white hug me coat and drag you off to a mental institution. These are trained volunteers who are going to sit and talk with you.
And then I do wonder, I think a lot of people may wonder about that. Is their number going to go somewhere? Is this totally confidential?
The only time that an operator on 988 will ever call 911 or anything like that is if you multiples threaten, bodily harm or any of that kind of stuff. I've been on their line I've used it myself a few times. I know some people that actually man the line. I've wanted to, but my time constraints, the timing doesn't work out. But it's basically a buffer is what it is. It's kind of the same thing as what we're trying to do with TUGS. And, people ask me like, what's your end all with TUGS? Like, what's your big goal? My big goal would be like every community to have something that's like TUGS. And I don't care what they call it. They can call it Ships in the Wind, or they can call it, Charlie Barron's is awesome. I don't care what they call the organization, but I would like communities to have the ability to have these organizations where you could get people hooked up with people. And it doesn't have to be your best friend. A lot of times, sometimes our best friends are our worst enemy, because, they're like, oh, it'll get better tomorrow. Or that whole positive toxicity. Someone who's going to be completely honest and transparent with you, who's going to say, all right, Charlie, make your own lunch. Mm-hmm. Or, dude, brother, I'm with you. Like, whenever you're ready to talk, I'll listen to you. And for those of you too that don't know what toxic positivity is, that's when someone comes up to you and they say, hey, I'm having a really rough day. And you're like, what happened? He's like, oh, I lost my dog. Well, Joe Smith up the road, his wife passed away a week ago. That's a lot worse. Stop doing that.
I'll give you something to cry about.
I'll give you something to cry about. But the whole thing of it is that, and I know people do it with the best intentions. I'm not going to debate that. That's not my point. My point is that people have bad days. And Pam Yankee, bless her, I love that woman to death. She says it all the time. It's one of my favorite taglines that I use myself is, it's not a bad life. It's just a bad day. Mm. And if we can tell somebody, you know what, hey, you are having a bad day. God, that sucks. What can I do to make it better? Mm. Sometimes all they want to do is vent for 15 minutes, get it out of their system. You might go, I don't have anything. Doesn't matter. I feel better. I got it out. Somebody listen to me. Validate that. What is so hard with validating people's feelings? And I use the analogy too, when I watch it on Facebook all the time, and I love my Packer fan friends. I absolutely do. But, there'll be game a couple weeks ago when they were down in the fourth quarter, and everybody's like, we suck, and we're this, and we're that. Winners don't need people cheering for them. I mean, they like it, but they don't need that. The people that need the cheering are the ones that are down in the dumps. And you see it. I mean, I've been to Lambeau numbers of times, and Camp Randall and a few others. And, when the home team is losing, it's kind of quiet. Mm-hmm. That's when you need to cheer. It's the same thing with people. When people are down in the dumps, that's when you need to help them. That's when you need to cheer them on. That's when you need to tell them, hey, I know you're struggling right now, but 2 weeks ago, man, that project you did was the best project ever. Or maybe you need to say something to them like, Do you remember when you gave Charlie that mug at Christmas and everybody laughed, including Charlie, and Charlie uses that mug every day and he's always like, oh my God, Connie gave me the coolest mug. None of you will ever give me a cooler mug than that. And bring something back that gives them validation that they matter, that they, and by God, I'm so sick and tired of us dragging people out of the stream. How about if we walk upstream and find out why they're falling in the first place?
Well, I mean, as you say that, I can think of a few people in my life that, could use a call, or that I think potentially could use a call. And even if they don't, call's not going to hurt. I mean, I think that's a great place for people to start. And then if they want to continue on and help with TUGS in some way, how can they get in touch with you? How can they get in contact?
We've got a website, tugsgroup.com. It's TUGS. No, I take that back. That's the email. So the email address is tugsgroup, all one word, @gmail.com. We've got a Facebook page. You can go on there and follow us. Sometimes we have really inspirational stuff. Sometimes we have stupid little puns. Sometimes there's something funny Charlie said. That's only like twice a year that we put on there. Sorry. But anyways, you can go to the Facebook page. And then we've also got our website, which is www.tugs.com. We're kind of under construction on that. We're making some changes on that. So honestly, the easiest way to get a hold of me right now is either going through the email, which is tugsgroup, TUGSGROUP @gmail.com, or to go to the Facebook page and, you can send me a message on there too, as far as that goes.
Awesome, man. Well, look, hey, thank you so much for coming in. Glad we could do this in person. Thanks for bringing the Pickle Ranch.
Oh, so good.
That's really spreading the joy around. And I got to get you to sign the wall now.
Sweet.
Yeah. And thanks for not hitting your head on the dormer. Or I should put a dormer. I've told everybody this. I had an opportunity to do it, but I was a cheap bastard. And so that's why.
Frugal. Let's go with frugal. I don't like the word cheap. It don't seem cheap to me.
I'm a frugal bastard.
There you go. There you go.
Well, thanks, man. I appreciate you.
I appreciate everything that you do for getting the message out about mental health and farmers and just supporting the wonderful state of Wisconsin.
Yeah, man. I love the conversation, keeping it going, and we'll have many more.
Sounds good.
Awesome, buddy. Thanks to Jeff for coming into the studio and talking about all this. Make sure you follow him on all platforms.
He's Jeff Ditzenberger on Facebook and Ditz Sims on IG. And then make sure to look out for his organization TUGS. I will put all those in the show notes. So if you want to see what they're doing at TUGS and what he's working on, you can head there.
All right. There you have it. And make sure you follow us on Patreon, Charlie Barons, or patreon.com/Charlie Barons. And see us on the road, charliebarons.com/tour. We will see you guys next week. Make sure you watch for deer. And one last plug, if you would like to donate to Doctors Without Borders, we got that linked up in the show notes. All right, we'll see you guys next week. Thank you very much.
So roll out the barrel and get the band brewing. Life's got you down, just keep her moving. It's on Wisconsin, the Badgers say it's the old Wisconsin Jubilee.
You know, sometimes when you're ice fishing, you put your foot in the walleye hole and go ass over tea kettle and you think you're done. No, you gotta keep her moving.